Before the last note fades, before the confetti falls, before anyone knows whether the button will be pressed. Stay with this story to the very end, because what begins as a quiet breath behind a microphone becomes a moment that changes a life forever. And if stories of hope, struggle, and impossible dreams touch your heart, remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because every click helps bring more real stories like this to the world. He stood alone in the vast silence of the America's Got Talent stage, a thin boy with worn shoes and a shirt carefully ironed by hands that had worked too hard for too little. His name was Miguel, a 13-year-old boy from a small coastal town in the Philippines, where the ocean sang louder than opportunity and dreams often learned to whisper instead of shout. The lights above him felt heavier than the ceiling of his family's one-room home, and the audience, thousands of strangers, felt farther away than the stars he used to count when sleep refused to come. His fingers trembled, not from fear alone, but from the weight of everything he carried with him onto that stage. Miguel grew up in a house made of patched wood and rusted tin, where rain had a habit of finding its way inside. His father had passed away years earlier, leaving his mother to raise him alone, working long days cleaning houses and selling food by the roadside. Music was never a plan, it was a shelter. When electricity failed, Miguel sang. When food was scarce, he sang. When his mother cried quietly at night, believing he was asleep, he sang softly into his pillow so she wouldn't hear his own tears. An old radio, held together with tape, introduced him to songs from faraway places, and one night, through the crackling static, he heard Hotel California. He didn't understand every word, but he felt every note, as if the song itself knew what it meant to be trapped between leaving and staying, dreaming and surviving. The judges glanced at one another as Miguel introduced himself, his accent gentle, his voice almost apologetic. When asked why he chose the song, he simply said it made him feel free. There was a murmur in the crowd, surprise, curiosity, doubt. A poor Filipino boy singing a legendary classic on one of the biggest stages in the world felt like a risk, the kind people warned you not to take. Miguel closed his eyes as the music began, and for a heartbeat, the world held its breath with him. The first notes came out soft, uncertain, like footsteps on unfamiliar ground. Then something shifted. His voice found its strength, warm and raw, carrying a pain that couldn't be rehearsed and a hope that couldn't be taught. Each lyric unfolded like a chapter of his life: long roads, restless nights, dreams that refused to die. The audience leaned forward. One judge's smile faded into disbelief, another's eyes filled with tears they didn't expect. Miguel wasn't just singing a song, he was telling a story of hunger, loss, and stubborn faith, wrapped in a melody the world thought it already knew. As the chorus rose, Miguel opened his eyes and looked out into the crowd, imagining his mother watching from their small living room, hands clasped, whispering prayers she'd memorized through years of waiting. He remembered the night she skipped meals so he could eat, the way she pretended not to be tired, the way she always said, "One day, Anik, your voice will take you somewhere brighter." On that stage, under those lights, he finally believed her. By the time he reached the final note, the silence was no longer empty, it was full. Full of awe, full of emotion, full of something rare and honest. The audience erupted, rising to their feet, applause crashing like waves against the shore of Miguel's courage. One judge wiped their face openly, another stood shaking their head in wonder, and a third struggled to speak, voice breaking as they tried to explain what they had just felt. Miguel bowed slightly, overwhelmed, unsure whether he had done enough, unsure whether this moment would fade like so many others. Then it happened. A judge stood up, eyes shining, and spoke about dreams that survive against all odds, about voices that remind us why we believe in miracles. The golden buzzer was pressed, and time seemed to stop. Gold rained down around Miguel, catching in his hair, settling on his shoulders, turning the stage into something out of a dream. He dropped to his knees, crying openly now, hands covering his face as years of struggle finally released their grip. Somewhere across the ocean, his mother cried too, not from worry this time, but from pride. That night did not solve every problem. It did not erase the past or promise an easy future. But it opened a door Miguel had only ever imagined, a door leading to possibility. More importantly, it reminded millions watching that talent has no address, that hope can grow in the smallest places, and that sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is stand up and sing their truth. As Miguel walked off the stage, still shaking, he knew his life had changed, but he also knew why he had been given that moment. Not just for himself, but for every child singing quietly in the dark, believing no one is listening. And if this story moved you, if it made you feel something real, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories travel farther, reaching hearts that need them most. Because somewhere right now, another voice is waiting to be heard, and sometimes, all it takes is one moment to change everything.